Hi, I'm Yinka, and this is The Hurt Locker, a podcast where we open a door into men's mental health. Coming up, the silent, brooding gunslinger,
He started a knitting group.
the fixer,
Brain's fucked. I don't know what's going on.
macho guys of what men were supposed to be about.
Do not call it man up.
Life's tough.
I think it's down to our DNA.
A sense of belonging, doing the raves and all stuff like that. Life is tough, and sometimes you can't fix stuff.
Do you know what? Speak up. Like the term man up. Do you know what man up really means?
Go on, you tell me. Who is Dan Summers? Dan, welcome to The Hurt Locker, a podcast about opening up to men's mental health. And we do the intro and all that, so we'll talk a little bit about yourself as CEO and founder of MANUP. But that's something for later on in our broadcast, etc. Dan, obviously you've got a lot of businesses going on, you know, you're really, really busy and all of that. But I was just curious, just for the benefit of the listeners, how do you switch off? What is your go-to?
I'm an avid wild camper. I love doing wild camping like Lake District, Peak District, and in the winter. So I went up there. I think there's one bit on the, what was it? I went there on the 2nd, come back on like the Saturday. So what was it? Yeah, 4 or 5 days there. Absolutely bloody freezing. But do you know what? It forced me to reset my brain because there's no mobile phone signal. There's nothing to do.
So tell me, what does wild camping entail then? I'm just curious. I don't think I've got the disposition to do any of that, you know.
Yeah,
I love
wild camping is basically getting a tent, get your tent and all of your equipment or whatever, and just go and camp near enough wherever you like. In England, it's actually illegal to wild camp unless you've got landowner's permission. But in the Lake District, Dartmoor and Peak District is kind of tolerated by the National Trust, as long as you don't have open fires. But I prefer to go into winter. So, say for example, this one I did literally last week when I went away. I was at a place called Scaffold Pie, so I was in a tent at 3,000 feet on the edge of a mountain. They're English mountains, but there's, I think our highest mountain I was on it the other day is 3,500 feet.
Okay.
But I do it just purely and utterly to reset my brain because I do think that. Bear in mind, I run a men's mental health charity. And not by default, we're quite a masculine one. I don't know how that's panned out. Just basically, probably the people behind it, as well as myself. We massively promote get off your backside and get doing something that you enjoy. And I just think we live in a society where we're being forcefully glued to our phones. We're not allowed to chill out anymore.
Okay. So for you then, chilling out entails getting out, going into nature, not having any technology around you, and
Yep.
just being in the moment, as it were.
Yeah, that's it. Like in the summertime, I'll race motorbikes and stuff like that. Race 1,000cc motorbikes, and for me, when I'm racing with my mates or even competitors, we're doing 150, arguably 200 mile an hour around racetracks. For that 20 minutes, my brain has to stop. I can only focus on that one thing. And for me, it just declutters my brain. So that anxiety, that depression, or whatever else was just lurking around, them life problems, it's like someone just picks me up, gives me a good shake. All of that crap, what's actually not that important, but I've let it all build up, just gets moved away. When I come away off a mountain at -30, or come off a racetrack completely and utterly shattered, my brain is so much clearer.
Okay. And aside from yourself, who benefits from that? The decluttering of your brain, that is.
Everyone around.
Okay. Family?
Yeah, more so my wife. Well, even even my member of staff, but even more importantly, my wife or my two boys.
Okay.
And I think that's the problem with blokes. I can only speak from a bloke's perspective because of my bloke. I think that the thing with blokes is we're not very good at talking. Statistics prove that.
Yes.
We're absolutely awful at talking, but trouble is we only start talking when our lives just turn to shit so much the trouble is because you're a counsellor, aren't you?
I am, yes. I'm a therapist, yeah.
Yes, or a therapist. So you must see it where people are just like, oh, my brain's fucked. I don't know what's going on, and you have to detangle all of that stuff. And actually, from my own perspective, and the many conversations I've had on Man Up and via Man Up, most of them don't know how it started. And
Absolutely.
I find it's because day one, I don't know, tonight, me and you have an argument. You've really really annoyed me, which means that later on I'm going to go to bed completely peed off with Yinka. And tomorrow, me and the missus have a row. That's two problems escalated. Then there's three problems. Then there's four problems. Then you lose sleep. Then arguably sometimes the depression or the anxiety kicks in as well.
You know what? As you started saying that, I started smiling to myself because I use the analogy of road rage,
Right. Okay. Yep.
and I say to people, imagine this: imagine you're driving the car, somebody cuts you up, and you get whatever peed off or whatever. How long do you think it lasts for? And it's interesting people's responses when they say maybe a couple of minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but you've just, you know, mentioned you've got something within you that hasn't been purged. It
Yep.
continues to have that argument with your wife. And I say to people, road rage can last for like 4 or 5 hours.
Yep.
So when you get at home, little Johnny might spill his glass of milk and that, and you kick off because he spilt his glass of milk. And it was just purely an accident. But it's the fact that that road rage was still there within you, where it hadn't been purged. And
No, exactly.
I don't think people understand that.
No, exactly. Yet again, I can only speak from a male point of view because I am one. But I've had conversations with women. I think women are better at it, talking and just offloading those little small problems. I think they're really, really good at it. Not all of them, but us blokes, we seem to have a bit of a problem with it. And I think it's down to our DNA. I think we're fixers.
You think men are fixers? I was gonna delve into that a little bit and
Yeah.
ask you, why do you think women are so much better at airing and talking about what ails them?
God, that's a bloody good. That's a good one. They don't have as much pride.
So it's our ego that gets in the way.
I think it is, and so for example, that we keep preaching on about it. We do as well about the stigma associated with men's mental health. And the thing I see time and time again is everyone blames society. Don't get me wrong, there is an issue with men and society and mental health. There is a big issue. I personally think it is slowly changing, not at the speed that I would personally like, but it is changing. We're having this conversation. We wouldn't have this conversation if it wasn't to do with this stuff. But I really think a lot of it. I don't want to say more. I'm going to say a lot of men not talking or letting the problems build up is because we can't. Is because we can't fix it. And I think the fear of not fixing or not being able to fix something is very much in our DNA. Whether society over the last 50, 100, 200 years has actually embedded that into our DNA, I don't know. Have I made
Yeah,
sense?
no, you do. You have made sense. I mean, I'll use film and cinematography as the example. You can go back spaghetti westerns, El Papo, Clint Eastwood, the silent, brooding gunslinger, the fixer, with Lee Van Cleef,
Yep.
uh, John Wayne. You can go through the 70s and 80s and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and even more, you know, the 80s and 90s with Bruce Willis. You had all these macho guys of what men were supposed to be about, and it's like they could resolve anything. Anything.
Exactly. They fix stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, life's tough.
Yeah.
Life is tough, and sometimes you can't fix stuff. And sometimes you just have to accept that this is the way it is.
Yeah. No, exactly that. And I think that's what we need to do as a society is yeah, we can keep nagging at society and say don't be a judgy prick to other people. But I really do think before that, or even alongside that, we should be encouraging blokes just to say, do you know what? Speak up. It's like the term man up. Do you know what man up really means according to the Oxford Dictionary?
Go on. You tell me.
This is in the Oxford Dictionary. Here's my script. You can tell I've said this so many times now. In the Oxford Dictionary, which is our Bible of the English language, isn't it? Let's face it. It's to be brave enough to deal with an unpleasant or an awkward situation.
Ouch. Ouch.
Yeah.
The language is all wrong.
Yeah.
The language is all wrong about that.
Yeah. I disagree.
It's repeat it again. Repeat the definition again to me.
To be brave enough to deal with an unpleasant or an awkward situation.
The word straight away, brave.
Yep.
Brave. If you stop being brave, it's basically saying that you can't man up.
Yep.
Automatically, that's got so many weighted connotations to it, don't you think?
I can see why you'd say that, and I'm not disagreeing with you. But this is why perspectives and conversations are so important. But for me personally, on BPD, borderline personality disorder, high functioning BPD, as a bloke, I have to chip in I have to add in the high functioning. I'm not I'm one of the good I'm one of the good ones, and I'm a high functioning depressive as well. The BPD I use as a superpower. It doesn't bother me that much. The depression side of it, that can sometimes batter me. It really can. And we promote as a charity. I think we use that term brave of like, we're well aware there's nothing braver than a bloke telling his missus or his boyfriend, his teacher, or it doesn't really matter what it is, that life's a bit tricky at the moment. And we try and twist it that way.
Okay.
You know, but I totally and utterly see what you're saying as well. I disagree with it, but I don't think you're wrong either.
Okay. And then, you know what? It'd be good to have a sidebar conversation about language and how it's employed as well.
Yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned about high functioning BPD and all of that. And it's not even because of my training and that, but my belief is that I stay away from labels
Yeah.
because for me, you're far more than just a label. But I know sometimes that labels are necessary for individuals to
Well, it's
receive access to support, for example, etc.,
I,
etc.
I'm glad you said that, because I had my BPD diagnosis years ago, and actually I'll bounce around it, but I'll always brush it. I'll always brush it off. That my BPD is not my identity,
Spot on.
and I think this is something what really does frustrate me. I was going to be careful on words. What I'm just going to say is that my wife's ADHD, so she won't mind me saying. So when she was doing her degree to do her social services, all that stuff, she was really struggling. So, and everyone was like, "You've got ADHD." So for her getting an ADHD diagnosis really helped her out, because it just gave her a bit more time to breathe. And I really think that was a good thing to do. But for me, I've been told I've got autism before, but I don't care. I run two businesses. I'm a bloody good dad, considering I was raised in the care system and all this kind. I'm a bloody good dad. I run two businesses. I founded a national known charity, which, man, that's quite a well known charity now. Most people know what it is. That diagnosis means nothing to me.
Good.
It's not my identity. So for
Absolutely.
me, like the BPD thing, yeah, it's a bit of a ball ache sometimes, but again, it's not my identity. I'm a lot more than that.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Tell me a little bit about, you've mentioned in passing, Dan, being brought up in the care system. Who is Dan Summers?
So I was born in like the 80s, so I was in that era of like the care system. So yeah, I've been in care homes and all sorts. I was sofa surfing from 11, 12, 13 and whatever else. So I truly did bring myself up. I ended up, I don't know, ended up just bouncing around sofa surfing, getting nicked all the time and dragged back to care homes, and no one really listened to me, blah, 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 blah. And from that, I ended up somehow working on a farm. Don't know how that happened and then when I was working on the farm, cleaning out horse shit, basically mucking out horses and all sorts, I ended up walking what was I doing? I was walking to somewhere across these villages, couldn't drive, and it pitch black, and I could hear a boom, 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 and I discovered a rave.
I was going to say straight away, as soon as
Yeah, no, it's a
you said
rave.
it was a rave.
Yeah, so I was underage. So I ended up going to a few of these raves and all this kind. These are illegal raves, and realised actually everyone there is really, really cool. I felt accepted for the first time in my life. So then I started putting on my own raves, and then I wasn't happy with being an organizer of raves. So I started DJing and promoting and setting up pirate radio stations and setting up illegal raves, getting arrested for it. Got in a lot of trouble for organising up Leicester and Witton Way and Essex. I was one of the biggest promoters of like the illegal raves, and I remember getting arrested for it. And this is a true story. This is years ago. Ended up Chelmsford Court. The judge was just like, you know, you're going to prison. And I was like, for organising fucking parties. And no, like it was illegal. And I was like, but I was paying the farmer. And they're like, it doesn't matter what he did and whatever. And he was just like, you must know it's wrong. This is in the court. He was like, you must know it's wrong. I went, no. He was like, how do you not know it's wrong? I went, no one told me. And he was like, okay, well, what's your story? So I told him a bit, and then obviously they do the sanity checks and to make sure I'm not completely batshit mental, arguably, and all this kind of stuff. And then I had to. So from that, he actually believed me. It was just like, I genuinely do believe that no one told you organising parties in the middle of a field was illegal. So I got fined. I think then was like 500 quid. Bear in mind I didn't have any money, so that was a big old fine. I had to do community service. I had to do community service. I had to do that. It felt like forever, but I had to do community service in like a charity shop. And I'll tell you one thing. I remember going there for the first day. I was quite nervous, and there was all these old ladies, and they were just like, "Oh, tell us about yourself." I was just like, "Okay, yeah, I'm from there, and I got in trouble." And they're like, "Oh, what were you?" I know what they're trying to do, trying to get to the bottom of what am I in for, that kind of thing. So I was just like, I organise parties. And they're like, you what? I was like, yeah, I organise parties. And from that, their fear went completely gone. And they were like, oh, bless you, and all this kind of stuff. And so I ended up doing more hours. I think I had to do like 2 days a week. I ended up, because I didn't have a job, I was just doing the raves and whatever else. I was doing it every day during the day, helping them out. So I was getting food and all this kind. I was getting food and scones and scones and all this kind of stuff. Absolutely loved it. And that, but I learned more about those old ladies, and they were the first, other than the judge, they were the first people who actually showed me some sort of compassion.
It feels like they were the first people who not only saw you, listened to you, but heard you.
Yeah, no judgment or anything like that. I remember running away from like the children's homes and all this kind of stuff, purely because they were horrible places to be. There was fighting and carers doing things to children what they shouldn't. Obviously, I don't know who'll be listening to this, and I don't want to trigger to you. I can only speak about things, but I remember hearing some horrible things. I only imagine. Well, we've seen it on Panorama. You can only imagine some stuff and whatever else. So I chose not to be there. And I remember the police. Like Colchester, jumping on the trains looking for me, and then literally picking me up. Bear in mind, I was like 11, 12, 13 years old. Literally dragging me like a horror film along the platform and dragging me back to the care homes. But I was the criminal or the bad one because I didn't want to be there. It's so bizarre. But anyway, so I bounced all over the place. So yeah, my first bit of compassion was probably 14, 15, I think, I was bouncing at the thing when I got involved in them illegal raves of helping out in them charity shops. That was the first bit of compassion I had.
You know, we've only been doing this for a while. We've only been recording for a short time. And I don't mind sharing with you some of the stuff that you've mentioned. There's an overlap with some of my experiences in life growing up, and it's resonating with me.
Are you from the care system, are you? Or?
I'm not from the care system. I may as well say it. Here's a disclosure. I think the care system would have been a better environment for me.
I've heard that by a few people actually. Yeah.
If I'm being brutally honest.
Yeah.
I think even at the age of 10 and 11, I was switched on enough to know that when it came to like picking my comprehensive secondary school, I wanted to go to a boarding school.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
That's
Wow.
what I wanted. I even knew then.
Yeah. Okay. Because I've had a few conversations with people like that where they don't speak to their parents, or the parents are just assholes and just treat them really, really badly. When they listen to me, they're like, "Oh, you're raising the care system." I think up to a point, I had it easier because at least I knew my parents didn't want me.
Yes. Yes.
I literally had it. Literally, maybe I'm just so hardened to that stuff now. Uh, Put it this way, I don't know where I'm going with this one. 2 years ago, I think it's just under 2 years ago, a year or 2 years. A year or 2 years ago, I had a phone call. Is when COVID was still a thing. I think we were in lockdown, and I remember I had a phone call at, I think it's like 7:30 on a Saturday night, Friday or Saturday night. This phone call from Chelmsford. I live in Ipswich now, so it's unusual. I've lived here for like 10 years or so, so it's unusual for my hometown on a landline to call me up. Ignored it, phoned it, and it called it back again. And then this Googled it. It was like Broomfield Hospital, and they're like, "Oh, you're Daniel Summers. Are you? Is your dad? Is your dad this bloke?" I was just like, "Well, yeah, I'll come out of his balls." Well, that's as far as it went. And they're like, "I'll just let you know, you're his next to kin, and he's dying." And I remember I was just like, "Well, this has got nothing. This has got nothing to do with me." So I hung up the phone. I was like, "Don't call me back." And my boys, I've got two boys, and they're like, "Who's that? Who was that?" Because I didn't realise they could hear something. And I was just like, "I've been told my dad's dying." They're like, "Oh, we didn't know you had a dad." And all this, and I was like, "Yeah, you got a dad, but he didn't want anything. He didn't want anything to do with me." I couldn't say to my own children, "He didn't want anything to do with you." I went, he just wasn't my dad. He's just we've got the same DNA. And do you know what? It might have been my oldest or my younger. One of the boys said, "If you don't go, you're going to regret saying goodbye." And it was the most mental thing. This is like a 13, like 10 and 11, around that kind of thing. These are my children, have never met my dad before, don't really know massive amount of, they know I was from the care system, and they know their dad's a bit mental and all this kind of stuff. And we talk about that quite a lot. But for them to go, you should go and say goodbye to him. And do you know what? I listened to him and even said to my wife, I was like, I'm not doing it. And then this nurse phones me back. And she goes to me, "Are you sure you don't want to come? You don't want to come and say goodbye to him?" She goes, "I get this all the time, and this is so sad." She phones me up to say, "I get this all the time of sons or daughters refusing to go to the deathbed," and it's really, really sad. This is like her job of just saying, maybe you should just come and say whatever you want to say, so you get. There's nothing about him. He's dying. You can get your own peace. And do you know what? I jumped in the car, bombing up the A12, and do you know what? I'm going to put my hands up and be honest about this one. I was like, "Do you know what? I can tell him what an arsehole he is. What a scumbag, hateful, blah, 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 blah. Everything, the most vile stuff was coming out my mouth." I was like, because I know he'll be dead in a couple of hours and no one can do anything, but I can get it all off of my chest. And then I remember walking Broomfield Hospital, face mask Oscar and all this kind of stuff. It's horrendous. It was a dead hospital. I walked into this room and I saw this man. I vaguely recognised him. And I was just about to just let everything out, just like, "You're a wanker," and all this kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah. I just went to him and went like, "Do you know what? Don't hate you." I went, "Because of you, I'm a really, really good dad." All I had to do is do the opposite to what he did. But do you know what the most creepiest thing is? Bear in mind this, I was in there for like half an hour just having that thing. I was like, "There's nothing here for you. My sons don't know you. I don't hate you, blah, 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 blah. If you see something on the other side or whatever else, then just go. There's nothing here for you. But thanks for making me a good dad." And for 2 seconds, he sat up. I'm not saying he was with it or whatever else. His eyes looked dead, to be honest. He sat up for like a split second. It felt like forever, but it was literally sat up for like 2 seconds, lied back down again, took his last breath. How mental is that?
Yes.
But do you know what? Even that, yeah, I wanted to give him both barrels because no one could prove anything. Do you know what? I literally, all I said to him, this is a bloke I hadn't seen for 20 years, probably longer. All I said to him was, "Thanks for making me a good dad."
Good on you.
And he did that by not being a dad.
Good on you.
Yeah, and that. So, but do you know what? I think that nurse was right. I really, that whatever happened that day, a lot of bitterness just completely and utterly gone.
And you know what? It's interesting. You just saying that a lot of bitterness going because it wasn't yours. You
Yeah,
were carrying stuff
yeah,
from somebody else, from the treatment by somebody else towards you.
yeah, and whatever else. But do I hate him or did I hate him? No, not at all. He was just a crap dad.
Yeah. I was going to jump in beforehand and I'm going to ask you now, you know, you're on the road, you're finding empathy of these ladies, a sense of belonging, doing the raves and all stuff like that. When does love enter your life?
For me personally, it's something I struggle with.
I'm going to stop you. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Thank you for sharing that
yeah,
sincerely, because that's an honest, can I say, brave response.
yeah. No, you can use brave in the right context. But no, I think is I struggle to accept it. I do. I think it's just. I think the biggest thing on me, especially be it, I was going to say victim of the care system, not a victim of it at all. Far from it.
A
I've
survivor.
survivor. I'm one of these lucky people where I've done well, right. I live reasonably comfortable. That it's not perfect. I live pretty comfortable. Run this charity, blah blah blah. So actually, I've done all right. And if anything, I have to hold back a little bit because when I liaise with people from the care system and they're raging smackheads and crackheads and all this kind of stuff, and I've helped them out in the soup kitchen. I used to lead the soup kitchen. There's been a few times where I've got quite arrogant. I'm like, well, I had the same chances as you did. Just don't be so lazy. And this is one of the, and I found this with a lot, but not a few people from the care system. You can get that arrogance of being quite judgy. Actually, through the rave scene and the DJing and all this kind of stuff, I got really good at marketing. And when I just had enough of all that kind of stuff, I applied for like a job and managed to work my way up. And this is all because one person we got on really well. I think he used to come to my rave, gave me that chance to get me that salesman job.
You know what, right? Again, it- I understand what you're saying there. It's about giving that opportunity, that sense that somebody believes in you,
Yeah,
can
absolutely.
trust in you, regardless of what your background is, regardless of what your history is. And I've always said this in terms of myself, in terms of my life. Don't judge me by the color of my skin or by my name.
Yeah,
Judge me by what I can do.
exactly. Yeah. And I think I'd agree with you on that. And I think that's something, especially with Man Up, we don't do tokenism at all.
Okay.
And I think that's shone through. Obviously, I don't know if you've done the research and looked at the video. There's hundreds of conversations with hundreds of different types of men, from skinny, black, white, whatever else. Doesn't really matter. Not one of them have been picked because of the way they looked. I'm so anti tokenism.
But there's a lot of it around.
There, there,
There's a
there,
lot
there,
of
there
it
there is
around.
absolutely. And I think the more inclusive the world is becoming, the more exclusive is making people. Got that the wrong way around. I think it's causing people just to stay silent.
Well, it is. It is causing people to stay silent because if I can go back in terms of being brave, and let me interchange that with the word vulnerable.
Yeah,
Sometimes it takes a lot to stick your head above the parapet.
yeah,
If you believe in your cause, if you believe in what it is that you want to speak out against, then I use the saying, and I'm not religious, to thine own self be true. If you know what you're in your heart of hearts, why, what your intentions were, then regardless of what the outcome is, in a lot of respects, you're being true to yourself, you're being authentic. And I think everybody's in the true. Most people feel as if they're in the Truman Show and they need to act a particular way.
Exactly that, and it absolutely drives me nuts. And that, so I'm glad you said that, because that's something with Man when I first started it. When I first said, right, I'm going to call it Man Up, so many people were like, "Do not call it Man Up. Like, you shouldn't be telling people to man up." We're not telling people to man up.
Yeah,
You won't find you will not find anything. There might be the NHS are a nightmare for, but you won't anything that we've written online or video, whatever else. You will never ever see us use man up without it being uppercase and with one word with a question mark, because we're always trying to rebrand it. I've done videos with a sniper. This is a hardcore proper man and all this. He started a knitting group to help his mental health.
brilliant.
And I'm like,
Brilliant.
you know what? To me, I think I've tried knitting, absolute load of bollocks. I can't be bothered with that. But I'm like, do you know what, mate? If it works for you, yeah, it ain't wrong. I know people who do like that cold water therapy. Where,
Yes.
do you know what? Yeah, again, I've tried. I've done it. I've done it a few times. One of my ambassadors, he's well into all of that. I've tried it, and I worked out for me personally the placebo of getting up at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning on Christmas Day, meeting your mates, chucking yourself in the sea. For me, that was what I enjoyed.
Okay.
I got nothing from being in the water other than cold feet and
But there was something in that, what you speak about in terms of the placebo effect of getting your mates together. It's that
yeah,
like band of brothers, that esprit de corps,
yeah,
that shared collectivism.
yeah,
We're living in a society too often whereby the cult of the individual is the one that's moved forward, is the one that's supposedly propagated, that this is the way we need to be. And we miss out on asking each other, how you doing?
exactly that. But the trouble is, the thing on the other hand is, it's like the whole thing of ask again and whatever else. Agree with it. The trouble is, now everybody's saying the same thing. That's got boring.
100%.
But this is why, as a men's mental health charity, we don't talk about suicide.
Okay, well, interesting.
Don't the reason being is my guess out for it. There are some bloody good charities what deal with suicide, and they're very very good at it in the services. But I have done videos with people who have attempted. Thankfully, they're still with us. And I'll always, I don't know if you're watching other videos. I'll always ask our video. I'll always ask them, always in the videos of, what do you know now? What would have prevented you losing the plot, or jumping that loft, or jumping off that bridge? One of them jumped off a crazy high bridge and somehow survived, broke his back. And the ones who have attempted it, every single one of them has said nothing, because it's I do believe up to a point, not in every case. There are sometimes when psychosis, when the full blown crazies does kick in and they've lost control. With men, and there's data to back it all up, with a lot of men, it's that suicide isn't, I've got the crazies, I've got nothing left. It's a logical decision. It's an illogical decision. It's a well planned, thought out, logical decision.
Yes, to deal with the psychological pain that an
No,
individual is in.
exactly that. So that's why we have the attitude that we haven't got a ban on it. We've got videos, we're bounced around it. We can't avoid it either. I wouldn't, even if we could. But we try to nip it in the bud way early. So, for example, one of the things what I've said quite a few times, I took a bit of stick actually for it, because I said, in a straight relationship, yeah, again, I'm speaking through my own perspective because I've lived it.
Absolutely.
Is with a bloke, the minute he starts acting a little bit weird, normally the woman will know quicker than before the bloke does. He's acting weird. Then what happens is she's like, "What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?" But she's generally concerned. He's now, "Oh, she's bloody nagging me. She's nagging me. She's nagging me." And then what do women do? If they start feel like they hit a wall, they start asking their friends, "Is it me or is it him?" Or even worse, they'll ask their mum, "Oh, mum, I think I've done something. Oh, what's happened, love? Oh, he's doing this. He's doing. No, it's not you. Then you've got a relationship problem. And if you get the friends, or more so, if you get the mum involved, your relationship's pretty much dead in the water. So we try and say, do you know what? Just speak to her early. My wife will kick me out of the house sometimes and say, "Dan, your crazies are kicking in. Why don't you go camping for a couple of days? Why don't you jump on your motorbike?" I'm not scared to say to my wife, like, go around your mum's or do whatever you want to do. I'm sitting on my arse with my dog watching Netflix for the rest of the day.
Okay.
Go on.
But this strikes me as someone who you have a relationship, you understand each other, you
Yeah.
communicate.
Exactly that. But bear in mind, we've come very, very close to call it a day and all this kind of stuff. For us to get where we are now, the only way to get to resolve that is by talking.
Absolutely.
And that's it.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't. And this is what annoys me about mental health stuff: is everything now has to be about mental health. Why not just say, "Yeah, Yinka, I'm having a shit day, mate."
Because men don't talk. Here's the thing, straight away, you've asked me that question. And one thing men aren't, and I'm generalizing it in a conversational sense, is men are not honest.
Yeah, absolutely, because we can't fix it. Yeah,
They're not honest. And they're fearful of the judgment that will be afforded if you are honest.
yeah,
And that
no,
creates in of itself its own problems.
yeah, no, exactly that. So just it's easier to get rid of the small problems before they escalate into the bigger problems.
Absolutely.
Just personally, that's just how I see it anyway.
I don't do much research. You probably can tell that anyway. But
To be honest,
when
I
I,
don't. I blag most of the stuff I do.
but when I was looking at your MANUP website and all that, and you mentioned attending the funeral of Keith Flint.
That's why Manor arguably was invented. I knew Keith through the rave
Yeah.
scene, and then through the DJing system as well.
Okay. You mentioned that, but the other thing you mentioned was the amount of funerals that you'd been attending.
20. That was back then. Yeah. I think this is why Manor was created, because I remember sitting there in the office, my old office, and talking about it. I was a bit upset because I was getting text messages about Keith and whatever else, and then the person I was with was just like, "Then you're talking like it's normal." I was like, "Yeah, I know loads of people have killed themselves," and they're like, "What?" I was like, "How many?" And I started counting, and I counted out it was 20, and they were like, "Dan, that's not normal, mate."
It's
But
not
I,
normal.
but yeah, but to me that was normal. Bear in mind, I was what 35 or something like that then. I was like, well, it is normal. And I put it down because I was from the care system. I was in the illegal rave scene and the DJ scene. Let's face it, drugs are involved in all this kind of stuff as well.
Yeah.
And the motorbike racing scene as well. That can arguably, my missus won't watch this, so I can say that can be quite dangerous as well. So I just put it down as just part and parcel. And then, so I started Googling it and go, oh, bloody hell. Like, yeah, male suicide's a big issue. But what tipped me over the edge is I saw a government thing. As in representing the charity, I'm going to try not to go political because I can't do politics as a charity. But there was one of the prime ministers was basically shouting on about how suicide rates in men were dropping. Whoopie doo look how good we are as a government. And I was like, hold up a minute. Back then, I was running the soup kitchen every single weekend. 60 volunteers. I was running the soup kitchen, and I was speaking to all of these people. I was speaking to all of these blokes every single Saturday. These are ex-army. There's just normal blokes who just fallen on their arse. But and then probably once a month you'll hear that somebody died because they've drunk themselves to death, or they've taken something. They've just pushed their bodies a little bit too much. I'm like, they're not recorded as suicides. They just basically drunk themselves to death or done all these drugs over a long period of time, destroyed everything in their life and probably other people's. Let's face it. Hence why we try and always say speak early before it escalates.
Yes.
Because mental health is hard. It's not just hard for people like me, who arguably my mental health is a little bit skewed with on the occasion. It's hard for my wife.
Yes.
It's hard. It's hard for my boys as well. I remember one year. I've never said this publicly before. I remember one year. My youngest, I think I stayed in bed for like 3 days. One of those days it was his birthday because I was I couldn't get out of bed. arguably, I missed my own son's birthday because of depression. I don't know where I was going with that one, but
No,
but
you've gone there. You've gone there, and
yeah, no, exactly. But I haven't. But so thankfully, he was all right about it, and we laugh and joke. We laugh and joke about mental health up to a point, but that's just how we talk. That's just how we talk about stuff. We get serious when we need to. He gets it. He gets it now, but. Yeah, I stole my son's. I didn't steal my son's birthday from him, but it could have been better.
can I ask who's the most important person in your life?
My wife would kill me if I say the dog. Um,
Say the dog if you want to.
no, but I'd say the most important person in my life, even though I don't want to say it, it has to be me.
It doesn't have to be you. It is you.
Yeah,
Why did you struggle with that?
I think I'm just one of those people. When I was DJing, I got quite high up that illegal rave scene.
Yeah,
When I was doing radio, I got really quite high up. When I was a salesman, not very long. I was one of the best in that call center selling those and shit. I was really, really good at it, got really good money. When I started getting into marketing and setting up my own marketing business and doing stuff with Samuel Jackson and all these big brands, everyone was like, "Do you know how good you are?" No, not at all. Even like the charity, I've not often. I've had people stop me in the street like, "Oh, you done you done from MANUP? That video or whatever else has saved my life." I want to get out of that conversation as quickly as possible.
why?
Don't know. I think this is this. I think it's.
Hey, can I? I'm going to say something to you now, downright.
Oh, go on.
You know when that person comes up to you in the street, they say that they've seen your video, and then they say that your video saved their life. Let me just reframe it. I don't know how old your boys are now, but imagine them at 4 or 5. They painted a picture in nursery or in school, right? And they said, "Dad, I've done this for you." And then you rejected it. How do you think that would feel?
Yeah, not very nice, isn't it?
And so when somebody comes up to you in the street and says to you, "Your video saved my life,"
Yeah. It's nice. It's nice to hear, but I think I totally get. I totally not get what you're saying. It's not like I brush them off. It's just I find
no,
it makes me feel weird. So when I get people saying, "Oh, like," when they reference Men Up and how big it is, and well, people think it's big and it really is. It's got a lot of coverage, but it's actually only a couple of people than the trustees. But for me, it's I'm not one of those people to go, yeah, I've done that.
but it's not about the size of the company, it's the message.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah,
And that's what you're doing. You're promoting the message.
yeah,
And what you're promoting through that message is hope
yeah,
that things can be different,
yeah,
that
no,
things,
exactly that.
that things can be better for us all.
Yeah. Well, I think it also works because as a charity, we don't give advice. We don't ever give advice. We just let the other person, whoever's this format, just one-on-one conversations, and we just highlight what they did to get themselves out of a pickle. And yet
Absolutely.
again, something else we promote quite a lot, probably because of my own stuff, is we promote with some mental health conditions. Let's ADHD, for example. I don't believe there's a cure. There's a cure for that, and that's very much a buzzword. Is you can either decide is probably the harsh word, but it's the only one I'm going to use. As men, we have to decide. We can either suffer from it or live with it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it sadly is one you either live with it or suffer from. Sometimes it's harder, and yeah, again, I've had people say, "Well, it's easier for you." It's like I miss my own son's birthday because of depression. I've had my stomach pump because of overdoses and all that, and all of this kind of stuff as well. Trust me, where I'm at now is not where I was 5, 10 years ago.
Absolutely. And you've had to work on that.
Absolutely, I had to make the hard decision, and it ain't easy. I have to live with my problems, not suffer from them.
Touche. What are you grateful for?
Everything.
Ah, come on.
Yeah,
Get some
I'll
picture.
do you know what? I'm grateful for my wife. Doesn't feel like it sometimes, but I'm grateful for my wife. She's the one. She's the one that grounds me. and whatever else. So when people say to me, it's like, "Oh, Dan, you've gone too far," I'll always ask her for opinion. If she says I've gone too far, I know that I've gone too far. And then, and do you know what? And this might sound really cool, and maybe because I didn't have a dad and the family setting. When my boys say that they're proud of me, that to me is the number one thing.
Yeah.
And wherever else, and like I've said to the boy, because my boy said to me one day, what was it? He was just like, "So what's your purpose as a dad?" He's so wise, it's untrue. The other one's gobby, and the other one's really, really, really stupidly clever, like top of the school and all this kind of stuff. But he's also gobby as well, so I've got to rein him in sometimes. But the older one, he's like an old man. He's like so
Yeah.
wise, and like his record collection, whatever else. But yeah, he goes to me, what's your purpose as a dad? And I don't know why I said it. I went to him. My purpose as a dad is to keep you, turn you into two adults, so you no longer need me anymore.
Amen.
And I think for me personally, that's my goal in life, is to make sure that my boys are better men than me, and that one day they will. If I got hit by a bus tomorrow, they can survive in life.
I was going to say that that's your superpower as well. That's your purpose, to make
Yeah,
your boys be able to live in a world without you and be better people than yourself. And I suppose
yeah.
that's part and parcel of what parenting's about as well,
It
to a
is.
degree.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me personally, that's all what counts. Is if I was in my deathbed tomorrow, as long as I know them two boys will survive, that's it. I'm not on about giving them inheritance and loads of money and bank accounts and all this kind of stuff.
It's not about that.
No, exactly that. But the one thing that each and every one of us could do for our kids, or even the people we love and care for, is make sure that if you popped your clogs tomorrow, that they can survive.
Yes.
They can carry on.
You know, I use the analogy of being a parent. It's a bit like blotting paper.
Yeah,
We pass on through that blot.
yeah,
Hopefully, you were using DNA right at the beginning,
yeah.
you know. So there's aspects of, your parents' DNA that have allowed you to go down a particular path.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is one thing, I don't know where my mum is. I think she's still alive. I'll always thank them I'll always thank them for making me a good parent, because
Yeah,
they've made it easy. They've made it easy. They did everything that you shouldn't do as a parent.
absolutely. So it's easy to go the opposite way.
Yes, absolutely. So I generally feel for the people who have been adopted and all this kind of stuff. I really do, because I don't know, some of them have lived horrible lives. I grew up with no one really wanting me, so I had to make my own life. It was easy for me.
So tell me, what does 2024 hold for you?
More peace. Well, the last 3 years of running two businesses and a charity. You got to bear in mind, I'm a married man, got two boys as well. My life has just been non-stop. So for me, it's just about reining it all in and actually go, what's important in my life, and just having more time for me. What's the point of having I don't really ride the motorbikes on the road, but I've had this motorbike brand new for the last 5 years, barely even ridden it. Just enjoy stuff. And I think
Yes.
that's what I think a lot of blokes have stopped doing. Maybe women as well. Yeah, again, I can only speak through my perspective. I think we're being trained to just stare at our phones or a screen constantly. And that's so like the other day, I was at Scaffield Pike, 3,000 feet, or just over 3,000 feet. No signal whatsoever in the pitch black, in the clag's foggy rain and whatever else. You can't see nothing. You're literally like in the film The Mist. It really is that you can't see nothing at all. All you can do is just untangle your brain. That's it. That's it. And I think we're losing that ability. I think also as well, I do it. I race because I enjoy it. I do the
Mm.
wild camping, especially in the winter, because is there a bit of being a bit of a butchy masculine bloke because I like to survive on reheated meals and all this kind of stuff. And of course it is. Of course there's something quite masculine about it, but it also shows me what I'm capable of. I was asleep in a tent at -13. You make one mistake, you freeze to death.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, even when I'm racing and whatever else, it's just when you're going around these bends and you've got somebody rubbing up on your knee and whatever else. My focus is finishing that, pulling off something what I didn't think I was capable of doing.
Final question. There's over 100,000 young people in the care system. Many
Yeah.
of them Dan Summers. If you had one message to them, what would it be?
I would say if somebody gives you a chance, take it. I would say, because I think from people who have been kicked out when they're 17, 18, been whacked in the bed sitting, you still don't know how to pay your bills properly and all this kind of stuff and whatever else. Whoever helps you, big or small, just take it, even if you hate them, up to a point.
I said it was the last question, but that then means that you've got to trust.
Depends on who it is, but yeah, absolutely. Say, for example, a judge. A judge was one, he could have put me in prison.
He could have.
But he didn't. He knew that something wasn't right with me, and just gave me that one chance. Did I trust him? Not really. All I could do is just be honest about my situation, blah 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 blah. But he gave me that chance. I could have argued it. I could have not turned up to a community service. I could have just played all of that card and played all the game and probably argued a load of stuff and probably won it. Didn't, just took it. Just take advantage of whatever you can to take advantage of. As long as you've got integrity when you do it, just take it.
Dan, it's been a pleasure talking to you this evening.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I feel like I've waffled a lot.
Not at all, not at all. And I'm preempting anything that Tim's going to say, but I'd like to have you back again. Maybe have more of a conversation.
More than happy to, mate. Absolutely more than happy.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Hurt Locker. Please give us a rating or share with another listener. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Hurt Locker Pod.